this place real? That depends. If real is what you can feel, smell, taste, and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain. Pikachu, I have in my hand 2 pills. You take the blue pill, and the story ends now. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the Diglett hole goes. But be warned, dive too deep, and you may never return.
There's always this big talk about cancel culture and players, celebrities, uh, whether it's political or personal beliefs or religious beliefs, could like have a major impact on a player's prices and long term, despite being all time greats. Um, I guess there could be some examples I could give, like one person, maybe OJ Simpson, maybe things that he was accused of was negative. But then I guess there's certain other people, Kobe Bryant went through his stint of accusations, but it
Yes,
seemed to recover. So is
correct.
there a compass, or is there anything that can kind of you could tell, or is it just I don't know, I don't know what's your take?
Well, there is an off-color joke I could state here about like comparing like certain collectibles versus that of others. When we talk about sports cards, when we talk
Mhm.
about even historical artifacts, people that are still living, those people have the potential to do harm or do wrong or lose their status in the public eye.
Mhm.
Superman, Batman, and Charizard are never going to assault anybody. And I use that as an example just to show the differences in between those two markets. Because you're
Mhm.
absolutely right. Is it fair? And I'm just asking the question, I'm not answering it. But is it fair that OJ Simpson is looked down upon, but
Mhm.
Kobe Bryant, who did go through, I'm just going to say it, some sexual assault allegations in the past, he
Mhm.
pretty much worked through that. And now he's seen as a hero in a
Mhm.
lot of sense. Is that really fair?
Mhm.
You can't gauge public perception.
Mhm.
That's the problem. And that's what's hard to gauge when we're dealing with artifacts that are related to people that are still living and breathing.
Mhm.
Look at Bill Cosby. Did anybody ever expect growing up? I watched The Cosby Show every week. When those allegations first came to light, I'm like, is this real? But then when you look at the evidence, it does lead you to believe, and the way that he acted surrounding those allegations, okay, potentially this is who he is. He's not the person that I
Mhm.
thought he was. And literally, I'll tell you, as an 80s child, my heart broke.
Mhm.
I mean, every week. Then I remember when Fresh Prince of Bel Air came out. That was an awesome show in the
Mhm.
90s. I watch all these shows. And if you look at like Will Smith with the Oscar slap,
Mhm.
that was kind of surprising too,
Yeah.
seeing as the character that he played on Fresh Prince. And he always had this clean cut, you know what I mean? Persona.
Yeah.
You're wondering, how did this play out? So my point is, any living being, they're human. After
Mhm.
all, they're gonna make mistakes. I don't want to say that what Cosby did was a mistake because if he allegedly did that, I think he was found guilty, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
That's something more where that's a problem, meaning you're just an evil person at that
Mhm.
particular point. So I'm not trying to compare Cosby to Will Smith in this regard, but I'm
Yeah.
just trying to show that you can't always predict how people are by their nature just because you're a fan of their work
Mhm.
or you relate to a character they play. So that's the issue we have when we invest in sports cards, even historical documents from people that are still alive, books that are written by authors. Look at the controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling
Oh
and
yeah.
her views. Harry Potter. There's a lot of people I know that used to love Harry Potter. They won't touch it now. They're out of that market.
Wow.
I knew people literally had signed first editions of Harry Potter and said, I got to go in the market and sell these. And don't get me wrong, they did very well because
Yeah.
there's other people that are still looking for that stuff. But she's considered a very controversial figure because of some of the statements that she made.
Mhm.
So there's no guarantee that if you're buying into something from somebody who is still alive and has status, that the way they're viewed now is going to continue into the future. Any given thing can change that. So it is a risk. That's why, like, if you come to me and you say, Sean, I want to invest in sports cards, go after players that are dead, man. Best advice I can give you. Seriously, Willie Mays, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, we know, no allegations are going to come to light 50 years later, I don't think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What's your thought process on people who buy like sports card figures? I don't want to, almost in a sense, like they look, oh, they're super old, they're in their 90s, they're gonna pass away soon. It's this effect where if someone dies, their sports cards go up or whatever. I'm pretty sure. I don't think people are like willing to admit it, but I'm sure there are people out there looking at the oldest legends, and he could croak soon or something, and they're like, all right, let me take this risk here. Because that's like an ethical thing. I don't know how people. I don't know what people you've met thought about this, or I don't know if this is something anyone's ever raised.
Well, it's kind of like the art market, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure
Oh
you've
yeah.
heard the saying where the only valuable artist is a dead artist. That
Yeah.
used to be the saying in the art market. And now we have all these contemporary artists that are still alive and young and still producing art. Look at Banksy.
Mm-hmm.
And their pieces are selling for millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to buy into an Andy Warhol's dead.
Mm-hmm.
We pretty much know how many pieces are out there, right?
True.
I mean, I'm assuming there's not going to be a cache of Andy Warhols found anytime soon, unless if it's coming from a collector that's been a long time collector. Same thing's true when we talk about Monet, Picasso, any of the modern masters. So when we apply this concept, though, to sports cards, it does get a little bit kind of insane. I think it's taken to the next level.
Okay.
And I really don't agree with it because most sports cards, most memorabilia that is truly valuable was produced in that person's prime as a player.
Yeah.
Now, you can argue, well, Sean, if they're dead and buried, they can't autograph anything going forward.
Yeah.
But some sports greats, much like if we look at in the comic book world, Stan Lee, they signed everything.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. Another few years of them living, it's really not going to affect anything because they already signed almost everything that they came in contact with. I mean, I know you probably know this. Back in the 90s even, there were a lot of sports stars that were going to conventions, and they would get paid handsomely for their autograph. And they would just sit there, sign, here you go, sign, here you go. Like, I didn't understand. Your hand isn't, I mean, you're sitting there signing thousands of autographs all day, every day. It's insane to me.
They have that not because I've seen that because I've gone to Sports Card National, and they have like players signing, and it's very expensive, and they're just sitting there signing everything. Yeah,
it's insane.
The other question, this is going to change a little bit. So, what is your opinion on people selling sports card investment picks and subscriptions? There's a lot less people doing that now. There's still a few people doing this. Like, what's your opinion on that?
Here's the problem that I have with this. Okay. And I tell people this. If anybody in the antiques and collectibles trade is trying to sell you a course, even a consultation, like I offer consultations for analyzing collections, getting in the minds of collectors and investors. And they will sometimes ask me, well, Sean, what should I put my money into? I can't answer that question for you. No one can. If somebody says they can, they're either lying to you, number one. They either have tremendous insider information, which boggles my mind because if they would keep it to themselves, or they would team up with a grading company, an auction company, or a manufacturer and utilize it that way. Or number three, they're a market manipulator, meaning they're hoping people listen to their advice. They come on the market and they all buy these particular products. So guess what? When the price hits an all-time high with everybody buying it, they can dump it. So I do not have a lot of good vibes towards a lot of these people that claim, well, let me tell you what you should be buying. Because let's be realistic. If everybody went after that particular item, the price would jump up. because collectibles market works supply and demand. That's all it is. If I came on YouTube and I ever did a video where I said, you know what, this comic book over here, let's call it comic book X, is undervalued. You should be buying this book. Well, even if I only got 10,000 views on that video, if 5,000 people went in the market and tried to buy that book in the condition and grade that I'm stating, price is going to shoot right up.
Yeah.
That's why there's an excellent book. I think I have it somewhere here, written by Harry Rinker, called Insider's Guide to Manipulating the Antiques and Collectibles Trade. It's pretty much, that's not the exact name. I have it on my bookshelf. I've said it in other videos. And basically it goes through, it was written in the 1980s, and it reads like stereo instructions. It's like the most boring book. No offense to Harry Rinker, but how do you write an exciting book in the 1980s about manipulating the antiques and collectibles market? You really can't.
Yeah.
It reads like stereo instructions. And the book is very hard to find on the secondary market today because a lot of people have an interest in reading that book. Let me just, oh, here it is. This is the book.
Okay.
How to make the most of your investments in antiques and collectibles. The first insider's guide to manipulating the antiques and collectibles markets to maximize your investment. And I think they only ever did one printing of it. And the book is quite rare. But if you read it, it really opens your minds as to how unregulated and risky these markets really are, especially in the year of YouTube, in the age of TikTok, in the age of online auctions, in the age of collecting forums, Facebook groups. Anybody can go out there and peddle this stuff. They're not going to get arrested. Nothing's going to happen to them. They're not going to even get slapped on the wrist. It's not like you're doing it with stocks or securities. These are unregulated assets. So anytime someone tells you, let me show you what to buy, be very hesitant of that, especially if it's a subscription service, especially if they're getting paid for it. That's my opinion.
Okay. The other thing is, so what's your opinion also, because this is another thing people kind of be trying to sell. What's your opinion on these price data tools people subscribe to invest or flip cards in the market? You know, I don't have to mention specific names of people, but there's certain products, I don't know, card ladder, card hedge, market movers. I'm sure there's more out there where people are looking. I feel like it's mostly like YouTube. I'm not YouTube, but eBay data that people are literally just paying for. And maybe we could outsource and find stuff from PWCC or PSA or other places that do longer term. But it still seems like there's quite a bit of people who are paying for these like subscription services and looking at the market and using this to quote unquote invest or speculate. So what's your opinion on this stuff?
Okay, there's nothing wrong if all some of these companies are doing, and some of them are, if it's just providing pricing data. Like in the comic book world, you have GP analysis, you have Go Collect. The coin world, there's PCGS CoinFacts, which is actually 100% free. You can also even register for a free account in most auction sites and just look at pricing data for certain collectibles. You just type it in and it comes up free of charge. If all they're doing is providing a set source of pricing data that just gives you an understanding of what's selling and what's happening in the market, I have no problem with that. That's fine. That is a good service to provide consumers and investors and collectors, provided that they understand that they have to have an understanding of where that data is coming from. In other words, if we look at GP analysis, I'll give you a prime example for comic books. Comic Link does not report in to GP analysis, to my understanding. Comic Link is a major exchange where comics are bought and sold. So if you're going to go by the information strictly listed in GP analysis, in the back of your brain, a siren should be going off that, hey, this isn't including comic book data from Comic Link, which is one of the largest exchanges. So they all have limitations in my experience, but there's nothing wrong with what they do. The problem is some of them go a little bit too far, and some of them try to provide like what we call in the financial world, stock picking advice. Like, oh, this item for the last couple of months or years sold between this price point. Now it's trending either over here, it's trending lower, or it's trending higher. This is where you should buy it at. I am completely against that. Because in the antiques and collectibles trade, and even in the stock world, if we talk finance, you can't really predict that. That is complete hogwash. I know I'm aging myself by using that term, but again, I'm in my 40s. Give me a break.
Yeah, so I one thing that kind of came to my mind is there's certain tools where they do these all-time highs or whatever, and also the weirdness of private sales because
Yes.
they'll do the very high sales, but obviously they're not. If they find, I don't think they're. If they find out about a very low sale, they're not gonna be like, "Oh yeah, this
They
sale
admit
is
them.
low."
Yeah, they admit them. Well, here's the problem that I have with private sales. If the sale's private, how do we know it actually took place?
Oh yeah.
And that's always my question. Okay. And this can even extend to eBay. Like you'll sometimes see something stupid that listed on eBay, and you know damn well that's not the price it's sold for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're searching sold and completed listings,
Hmm.
it's market manipulation in most cases, or money laundering, one of the two.
Yeah.
It's not a real price, though. You can just look at it and go, nobody paid that price for that item. Like people
Yeah.
will do it with a Beanie Baby. People will do it sometimes with a legitimate collectible, like a comic book or a sports card. And now it gets the sales data out of whack. Because let me give you an
Yeah.
example. If you have like 8 items, and all 8 of them in 9.4, let's just use,
Hmm.
sold for between 10 and 15,000, and this one outlier sold for like $33,000. Is that really realistic?
Hmm.
No, it's not. So you kind of have to admit that one. And that's also what can confuse some of these algorithms like GP analysis. Because if you're looking for an actual average, 90-day moving average, a sale like that that gets picked up by that algorithm, it skews the data.
Hmm.
So that can be a downfall to these sites. You do have to apply critical thought to all
Hmm.
of this information that's out there, whether you pay for it or not. And unfortunately, in the antiques and collectibles trade, especially in present time, we're seeing a lot of people don't have critical thought. They're not capable of critical thinking. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying not to be mean, but I'm just saying a lot of these particular individuals that are coming into these markets, we saw that during COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, the government gives these individuals $1,200 at least on 3 separate occasions, and they buy the dumbest things. At least the people that got the PPP loans. Don't get me wrong, I'm against the PPP loans because they were wiped clean. But at least the people that got the PPP loans, they had a brain in their head and they went after the true vintage stuff. Like I
Yeah.
had people coming to me, I'm a consultant, and I had people literally calling me up going, Sean, I'm buying an Amazing Fantasy 15 on the government's dime. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? The first time I had a call like that, and the dude's like, what do you mean? They gave me $250,000 that I don't have to pay back. And I said, well, at least you're intelligent enough to go after an Amazing Fantasy 15, aside from some of this stupid speculative modern crap that's selling for high prices right now.
Yeah. That's